pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So welcome to our August 24th, 2021 Tiverton School Committee meeting. I'm going to ask for motion. Is anyone signed up for open forum? Okay, or we are monitoring Zoom and YouTube. Anything, Mr. Carnavale?
There is nothing in Zoom at this time, and I'm pulling up YouTube right now.
Okay. We'll come back to open forum. If there's anybody on YouTube for open forum, please just let us know. Although that actually has to be on Zoom. All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed?
Not opposed, but I would ask that we pull 5B for a reading.
Yeah, I was going to read it.
Then I will propose that you read it.
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right, and then just before we proceed, just to let everyone know that Mrs. Pavo is not able to attend this evening. So I just have two pieces of correspondence that I received over the last few weeks. The first is from the Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island, which I'd like to read. And it says, on behalf of the Jewish Alliance of Greater Rhode Island and our local Jewish community more broadly, I wanted to reach out to you and thank you for your swift changes to the 2021-2022 school calendar. As the calendar has been originally constructed, Jewish students and educators would have been forced to choose between their religious observance and participating in their first day of school. Because of your leadership, the students and staff in your district will not be faced with this decision. We appreciate your support and encourage you to reach out anytime if you wish to discuss this issue or any others at any point. Sincerely, Adam Greenman, President and CEO, and then he just wrote at the bottom, thanks for your leadership. So kudos to the committee. And then the second is from Chief Bruce Reimels from the Tiverton Fire Department, and dated June 21st, 2021. In the fall of 2020, the Rhode Island Department of Health asked all municipalities of the state to prepare for the mass vaccination of the residents of Rhode Island against the coronavirus known as COVID-19. The town of Tiverton and Little Compton decided that it would be beneficial for both towns to work together in this endeavor. The Tiverton School Department was notified that the state wanted us to start preparing for the vaccination of all the town's residents. Dr. Sanchioni was more than willing to help the two towns in any way that he and the school district could. We had a few meetings between all parties involved and formulated a plan. Due to the requirements of the vaccination process, it was decided that we would change our medical emergency distribution system point of distribution from Tiverton Middle School to the Tiverton High School. This required a lot of additional planning as we had to write and submit a whole new plan to the Rhode Island Department of Health. Again, the Tiverton School Administration was always willing to help in any way they could. After all the meetings and plannings were complete, it was time to have our first clinic. The Tiverton School District stepped up again with the help of everyone from the custodians helping us to set up tables and chairs that the clinics needed, to the school nurses helping with administering shots, as well as the office staff from the schools and the principals helping with the distribution of the clinic links and related information, and all the help from the superintendent's office. In capitals, it was a huge success. Tiverton held 16 clinics, the first being on February 18th, 2021, and the last one being June 14th, 2021. We administered 2,517 shots and were able to completely vaccinate over 1,250 residents. This was truly a community effort. As a Tiverton Fire Chief and Tiverton EMA Director, I am honored and proud to be able to work with the different departments in this town to make events like this a success. I would like once again to thank everyone from the Tiverton School District that helped make these clinics and the overall fight against the COVID-19 virus a success. Job well done. Signed, Bruce Reimels, Chief of Department, Tiverton EMA Director, Tiverton Fire Department. So thank you to all of our teachers, nurses, staff, administrators, Dr. Sanchioni. Great job. We really appreciate that. And apparently we had another clinic actually earlier this week and have others planned.
That is correct. We had a clinic on August 20th where 30 additional students and parents were vaccinated, and we have another one planned for September 10th.
And I guess if I could just take a minute, it is now known that the FDA has approved the Pfizer vaccine. It's expected that Moderna will be approved, fully licensed for anybody who's still kind of on the fence about it within the next week or so. And the earliest estimates I have for approval for under 12 are sometime in the mid to late fall. So if anybody's wondering about that. So, all right, I'm going to go to new business. Item 6A, East Bay Food Service Contract. Ms. Roderick?
Thank you, Dr. Larkin. So our food service contract is entered into on a collaborative basis with all the other communities on the East Bay, and in particular, Mr. Fiore in Barrington spearheads this particular group contract. And that was approved, Chartwell's won the bid for all 5 of the community, I believe it's 5 of the communities, and each community school committee must approve the contract before I'm allowed to sign it on the district's behalf. So I provided that to you for your review and would ask that you approve it. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve the contract.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So I'll open it up to discussion on the part of the committee. Mr. Dakotas?
So I try to read. It's a lot to read.
It's a lot to read.
So my eyes just went to the on our end, just looked at some of the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my first time looking at it. So my one question is, because my kids asked me, and I may have missed it, are we getting any type of, maybe this is off topic, but the federal funding for lunch this year?
We are.
Okay.
It's through the seamless summer option, where every meal is complimentary to the students, whether it's breakfast or lunch,
Okay.
regardless of economic status.
Okay, thank you. So I might have something else in the future. but
Absolutely, you know how to contact
I want to
me.
listen now, but that was my question.
Mhm,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Mrs. Palish? Mrs. Farnworth?
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one is in reference to item 7.5 on page 22. I noticed that 4 of the 5 districts are guaranteed a surplus or break even, and Tiverton is guaranteed a deficit of no more than just under 48,000. Could you help me understand that?
So traditionally, I am not familiar as to why the other districts are guaranteed a surplus. I do know that we have historically run break even or at a loss for the last, I can't even recall the number of years, but it has to do with how the staff is structured here at all the different elementary schools versus the other schools. There are times when, I would expect that in this particular case, we would have break even or a surplus because the seamless summer option is a much higher reimbursement rate. It also depends on the number of free and reduced lunches in our community. So even though certain parts of our community are lower income, there's much more participation in the other communities of non-free and reduced lunch students as there are here. So it's kind of a big, I know it sounds like a wishy-washy answer. It's like it's a confluence of circumstances. But I know that historically we have either broken even or had a loss in at least the last 5 years.
Is it worth looking into a little bit more thoroughly? It just seems that we, of the 5, we're the only ones running at a deficit. There's got to be, I understand some of the factors that may go into it, but it just does seem odd that we would be the only one.
Okay,
Right.
I can certainly look into that.
Yeah, we're not a rich district by any means, so it's kind of interesting how we would be forced to run at a deficit where the others don't.
Yeah, so my recollections of these conversations in the past have been that we have difficulty getting everyone enrolled who's actually qualified.
Correct.
And I'm not sure I guess the thing to look into is are the other, what are the other districts doing, I guess? I think
I
of
know that's
Barrington
been a
as being-
problem in some of the other districts as
Huh?
well. Getting people to enroll has been an issue in at least one of the other districts that I'm aware of. So
Oh,
I
really?
don't know
Okay.
if that would be the only reason.
Yeah.
It could be
It's probably one of many, but,
Mhm.
yeah.
It could be, but to me, it would be worth looking into more to understand.
I could do that for you.
And then next on page 29, there is reference to the conditions of the premises and equipment. Are we in compliance with the state in the conditions of the kitchen, especially at the high school?
We have received Board of Health violations for the last 2 years, in particular because of the dishwasher. So we are in desperate need. I believe I've mentioned that when we were discussing the capital budget, but every year we continue to receive those violations until that unit is replaced. So
Are
the
there
answer to that is no.
consequences associated with those violations?
I beg your pardon?
What are the consequences of having violations?
I would presume that if it continues, they would deem it unaddressed and could potentially shut down the kitchen over time. But then again, it's also, we need to have the funds to be able to replace the kitchen equipment. It's a catch-22 on our end.
I did participate in the budget walkthroughs earlier this year and got a good look at the dishwashing station in there for the first time, and it does appear to be, I'll say, dangerous.
Well, because the water leaks all over the floor and then sort of runs into the food service area, and they have to literally squeegee it on a daily basis.
And having been a part of a collaborative, do we have any kind of ability to work out a deal, if you will, with Chartwells to get some equipment upgrades?
So what typically
help with that?
happens with that is that they will front us the equipment and then amortize the cost of that over a predetermined period. So we would be responsible for paying for it, but not necessarily upfront. Like, for example, if the dishwasher is $40,000 or $50,000, they might be willing, and I haven't had discussions with them, where they would come in, provide us with a dishwasher, and then over the course of this year or maybe 2 years, a portion of that would be added to our monthly bill in order to pay it off, because we own the equipment.
Okay. Well, I mean, whereas this is a one-year deal with options to renew, perhaps we can use this time in the first year to start looking at some of these things. Because I don't want to hold it up today, but that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the public present or on Zoom, Mr. Carnavale?
Not at this time, Dr. Larkin, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Mrs. Palish? Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
I vote yes, so motion passes. Thank you very much, Ms. Roderick.
You're welcome.
I do wonder about, that sounds like an attractive way of financing dishwashers, if we could build that into this contract. So maybe that'd be something to look at. So we are up to item, do we want to move up Spotlight on Success, Peter?
If that student is with us, I would suggest, Dave, is a student with us? Middle school celebrating success. Can you ask Chris?
Mr. Ashley, which student are we going to be spotlighting this evening?
Yes, hi, it's Sailor Roulette, and I haven't received confirmation.
Okay.
I did send her mom an email a few minutes ago. I wasn't sure if they were on maybe possibly the YouTube channel or I'll double check my email now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. If the student shows up in the Zoom room or on YouTube, please let us know. So then we are to item 7A, under old business, review back to school plan. Dr. Sanquioni?
Great, thank you, Dr. Larkin. Going to show a few slides, mostly information you've seen. As we get closer to the first day of school on Friday, September 3rd, we're finalizing our back-to-school plan. All right, there we go. So, some slides that you're familiar with. All the covenants that we put in place last year are going to remain for this coming year. And, again, you've heard me say this multiple times, that we had some cases of COVID last year. I'll show you the statistics momentarily, but yet we were able to prevent any transmission in our fields, on our fields, in our buildings throughout the entire year. And I believe that all the things that we did up here on this list were the cause of that, and we certainly want to keep them in place this year as we continue to fight COVID and the Delta variant. So I won't go through that list. I know I've done this several times with you folks. And again, I know I've shared this data with you and with the community. See, these are our statistics from last year. Again, I just call your attention to the bottom line, the number of staff, the number of students who actually caught COVID as documented by RIDO. The total was 144 people. Again, not one of them caught it in our schools, and more impressively, not one of them transmitted it in our schools too. And again, I credit that to all the hard work of the people who are executing the things that were on the previous slide. So again, I'm not going to read all this to you, but this talks about COVID as a moving target. The data changes almost on a daily basis. We got a lot of people who are unvaccinated, and again, our number one responsibility is the safety of both our students and our staff. Looking at Tiverton, this is our most up-to-date vaccination numbers. Again, these have changed. Again, you heard me reference the clinic that we had last Friday where 30 more people were vaccinated. But again, as the data that we have most recent, July 28th, you can see that our percentage was a little bit lower than some neighboring towns, Barrington, Middletown, and Portsmouth, 38.6. But I think that, and I talked to Chief Reimels about this, we think that's going to shoot up pretty drastically over the clinics that we offered and several other clinics that were available to our students and our staff. Again, want to emphasize we do have another clinic coming, and that's on September 10th starting at 3 o'clock to 5 p.m. The link is there, but know that the link will be blasted out through multiple venues so that every parent will have access to it. We're aware of the CDC recommendations, and importantly, what the governor now has put in place for Rhode Island, and that simply is that universal mask wearing indoors for all teachers, staff members, and visitors to schools, regardless of vaccination status. Outdoors, people, and most importantly, our students do not have to wear a mask. So that's a significant change from last year where we wore masks all the time. So right now there are built-in mask breaks, both at all levels from K to 12. And again, this is just another way of saying the same thing, that the Delta variant can spread viruses to others, whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, which is the key reason for wearing a mask in the indoor settings. Can you do this manually? There you go, thank you. Okay, an important thing that changed from the last time we met till today. So on August 14th, I was reviewing these slides with you, and it was up to you as a school committee to put in place a policy for mask wearing. That has now changed. Governor Key, Rhode Island Department of Health, is now requiring through executive order that your LEA, Tiverton Public Schools, implement a policy requiring every person in a school setting, whether vaccinated or not, to wear a face mask, and we should add the word indoors. Again, my recommendations as I review all the data, both in Tiverton and what's going on in Rhode Island and in the country as a whole, recommending that the wearing of masks be required indoors, and again, that is a requirement given to us from the governor. We will employ 3 feet of separation in all of our classrooms. Our principals are working diligently to make sure all our classrooms are set up that way. We will continue all the other safety protocols that I referenced on the first slide from last year. We will continue to conduct asymptomatic testing, both as a PCR test and a BINEX test where necessary. Reminding families and the school committee that it's a federal requirement that all students wear masks on our buses. And we will employ the 7-day quarantine period with a negative test on day 5 or later, with a possible return on day 8. So for families who are concerned about sending their students back to school, we do have an option. We will not be offering distance learning as part of the Tiverton Public Schools academic offerings. However, there is an option where the East Bay communities have come together to offer a virtual school that parents can elect if they want to send their students. This is a full-time school. You become a part of this school. You attain all your classes through this school. And again, you are still a student of Tiverton. However, this is how you're accessing your classes. And I'm going to kind of almost contradict myself now. There is a very limited distance learning option, and I want to pay credit to the union and our teachers for working with us to implement this. The district will provide distance learning for only those students who are quarantined by RIDO, either as a close contact or student or staff member for that, having COVID. And so, as you saw at our list earlier, the number of people who had COVID, I can tell you that there were hundreds and hundreds of kids last year who were quarantined. So they went home, they never caught COVID, and it would be hard for us to keep their education at a high level if they weren't able to participate. So those kids this year who are close contacts, who have to go home for a minimum of 8 days, and it could be 5 school days, they will be allowed to access their teacher both through synchronous and asynchronous instruction. And this is the best educational option for these students. We're also allowing our teachers who get quarantined to teach at home if they're well enough. And again, this is a way to ensure that high quality instruction is provided by the certified dedicated teachers of the Tiverton Public Schools. Again, if they're quarantined as a close contact, they're feeling well, they can teach at home, and our principals will work out the coverage here in school, but our students will still benefit from that high quality instruction. And I'm going to skip that and end there. And I wanted to mention, Mr. Dakota's already brought it up, that again, the free lunch and breakfast is available to all students as part of the federal government's policy, regardless of income. So it's available to all students. So every day, breakfast and lunch is available at the Tiverton Public Schools. So that's where we go as part of this, and I'll just connect it to old business B. Is the executive order requiring masks in school. So I've given a copy of that, and I know you're all intimately aware of this. The governor now has required it. It is in place. We will start on September 3rd, and certainly we'll follow this order if the policy passes later this evening. So happy to pause and take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So just to clarify a couple things about the academy versus the distance learning. The distance learning is when a student's been identified as a close contact or a case, and that's actually done by the Department of Health.
Correct.
Still?
Exactly. So that makes it crystal clear. That's the promise we made to our teachers. It's not an option. You can't opt into it. You can only be placed into it under those 2 specific conditions.
Okay, and then those students are, will be returning, so as
Right.
opposed to the students who might opt to join the Rhode Island
Connections Academy.
Connections Academy.
Right.
And the cost per student for the Rhode Island Connections Academy is around
$9,000.
Okay. All right, and so theoretically, that could become substantial if there's a lot of students that opt for that.
If there is, I would say right now we have about 8 students who have elected that.
Okay. All right. Something else I was going to say, but I forgot what it was. All right. I'll open it up to questions by the rest of the committee. Mrs. Palish?
One of the things I heard discussed, I've been watching several of the meetings throughout the state, was regarding the mass breaks. And I didn't see anything in our language, but I think it's really important that there's no sort of correction or restriction on those mask breaks. So if it's recess, that while we have this mask mandate, there's no correction that would include not getting to go to recess, because those breaks are so important. I know it's not necessarily written in here, but I don't know if you've had those discussions, but that was one of the things that was brought up, I believe, in East Greenwich, that their committee and their administration thought it was really important that at least while this mandate was in place, we don't restrict in any way their ability to take advantage of those mass breaks.
If I could, I could expand on that a little bit.
Yeah.
We have been doing a lot of thinking about that, and so, correct, every student will be allowed to go out recess K-4, and if you should have physical education that day, that would be 2 opportunities to have a mass break. At the middle school, again, phys ed is one opportunity, but you may or may not be aware, at the middle school, the students have lunch and they have laps at lunch. And so we're going to be strongly asking our students to go outside when the weather allows to, walk that field behind the gym, behind the cafeteria, so they can get that second mass break in. And at the high school, Miss Principal Craven is working on a similar option. It's not finalized yet, but she's trying to figure out a way for students to exit the cafeteria and just go outside for a little bit right after lunch and get that mass break in. Again, physical education will be a key component of this. And I know our principals are also looking at ways to build in some other mass breaks during the day, and those just plans haven't been finalized yet.
So, and I'd actually been speaking with Dr. Sanchioni earlier today. It'd be good if we had one of our nurses come and sort of
Yep.
talk with us a little bit about, the approach they take to a kid who's getting mask fatigue or mask intolerance, how that's approached by both the nurses and the teachers. May, I guess, having mask fatigue themselves. I know I do. So that would be a good thing to hear from them.
Yep, we will have that next meeting.
So, Mrs. Farnworth?
I'm not done,
Oh,
but you can come back round.
no, go.
Okay. I think it's important, one of the things I had asked you about was that people understand the Connections Academy. It's a semester by semester, so it's not, I know there was some confusion with a couple of people I had talked to, that if you do opt to take advantage of the virtual school, that's great, but understand it's a semester option. You can't do it for 2 weeks and then, go out and then come back. It's you have to, commit to a semester program, because it is different than what we're doing in school. It does not follow, correct?
Yeah, it's the same standards taught by
Yes.
Rhode Island certified teachers. It's not the same curriculum. They don't
Correct.
use Eureka Math like we do. They don't use Wit and Wisdom like we do. They're teaching the students the same things that they need to know and be able to do. It's just different things. So you are correct. It is a semester, so we can build in that transition when a student wants to leave the academy and come back to the public
Right.
schools.
And I just wanted people to understand that's a semester commitment when you
Yep.
do. You and I had talked right after the meeting, Dr. Sanchioni, about teachers potentially taking masks off if they're 6 to 10 feet. Did you have any chance to think
Yeah,
about that some more?
I think if
I know
that
it
was-
gets hard.
I think if that was your policy, and when we were working through that lens, that was an option I was going to present to you, but I think when the governor made it a mandate like that, I think.
Oh,
that
we
op-
no longer have that option.
I don't think we have that option.
Okay, thanks. Well, we were trying to be flexible. And then you had talked about the teachers, if the students are quarantining, they can, this is the very narrow distance learning.
Yeah.
And that the teachers can quarantine as well, and you said that the principals will work for coverage. So is that going to be probably a sub-situation? Because I could see where that would happen, like, you may not have much advance notice, and,
So you're exactly right. We are going to employ the same system we did last year with building subs. So there are 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school,
Okay.
and 4 at the elementary level, 1 to each school and 1 floater. So we anticipate that we'll cover it that way. There will be times when those people are all working and we still have to cover a class, and that's where our principals will count on our staff to do that coverage for us. And again, that's a way to keep everyone as safe as possible, but not bringing in outside influences.
okay. That was it, thank you.
Mrs. Farnworth?
My planned question was around the Connections Academy as well, and the question around fluidity. I know last year, things were very much fluid, right? You could check in, check out,
Yeah.
and from what I've heard you just say, it's a semester-long commitment. I mean, what if a family realizes fairly soon in that it was a mistake for their child?
You know, we always do what's in the best interest of our students, right? I mean, if there's really something that's documented and it's not working and the kid just can't, we would make an exception. You know, we want to put out the semester so it's not this fluid thing like we did last year. It's not fair to our teachers. It's not even fair to the student to be toggling like that between
Right.
different things. But certainly, if there was some adverse reaction or documented reason why, we would do the best thing for our students.
And certainly, once a student made the transition back into school, I would expect that there would be no going back to
Right.
the connection.
It would be a tough, yeah, it would be a tough transition.
Yeah, okay. That was the only question I had. Thank you.
Have we had any guidance from the Interscholastic League regarding competitive sports for the fall? I mean, I would assume not yet, but outside versus, I assume inside is probably going to be math.
Inside math, so that would be our volleyball
Okay.
team. I talked to our athletic director, Mr. Murray, this week about that. And outside, our students are not wearing masks right now. Practice started this week. And so we're following the rules. And one of the things we will do is we are requiring our athletes to be tested on a weekly basis. And so hopefully we can guarantee their safety that way. And I know our coaches take it extremely serious. There's a lot of hand sanitizer out there and things like that. They try to keep the kids as separated as best they can. But, you know, when you're playing soccer and football, there's going to be a lot of contact.
And does that go down to cross-country and soccer at the middle school level as well?
It does.
Same guidance?
Yep, same guidance.
Okay. All right, that was my question. Thank you.
Any questions on Zoom or from that other thing, YouTube?
We do have one question that was answered, but if you don't mind me repeating the question and answering it. The question was in regards to Connections Academy and what the cost would be, and the answer was that was $9,000 per student.
Per student.
To the district,
Yes.
not to the
Thank you.
families. Thank you.
All right,
Free public education.
okay. I guess last thing I'd like to mention is I was participating in a meeting at the Department of Health, and Tiverton was noted for actually having the best COVID mitigation plan in the state by Dr. Philip Chan, who you have seen on TV. He said, you know, our plan was actually the best one in the state. So kudos, Peter. I wanted to take all the credit, but I
Well, a lot of people
said we have
That's a team effort. for
great
sure.
team of teachers and administrators and superintendent. So
We did get another question, Dr. Locken, if
Yep.
you don't mind. So we do have a question. Will the children be able to play outside with friends from other classes this year, or are they going to be kept away?
And I assume that's a recess question?
Yes.
And I'm going to, you know what, I haven't actually asked who am I going to put on the spot? I see Ms. Dolly Roach, so I apologize. If you folks haven't worked that out yet, let's get an answer. But if you can't answer that question, would you mind?
Of course. At this time, we're planning to have each of the classrooms continue to be in their stable groups for recess. Certainly would be, thrilled to adapt that as things go forward if the guidance about stable groups is lessened a little bit. But for now, those stable groups or homeroom groups will continue as far as I know.
Thanks, Amy.
okay. Anything else, Mr. Carlisle?
Not at this time, Dr. Locken. Thank you.
Okay. So, you know, I think we all need to remember this is, we hope, sort of a process we're going to be going through, and that as the months go by and we get more vaccination and better control of the pandemic, a lot of these things we can maybe ease up on. So we can always be hopeful. All right. So next is item 7C, middle school handbook update.
Excuse me, Dr. Locken?
Yep.
We have Sailor, if we could move that up if you
Oh,
don't
okay.
mind.
So I'm going to ask for a motion to move up item 8A, middle school celebrating success.
So moved.
Second.
Any opposed? All right. So we are on item 8A, middle school celebration of success. Mr. Ashley.
Yes, thank you. So I want to let Sailor do some talking here, but it's really my delight to introduce Sailor. We love all of our students, obviously, at the middle school, but Sailor has really gone above and beyond during the summer to support her fellow peers with a community drive. And so, Mr. Carnevale, if we can let Sailor speak about some of the details, and then I have a piece at the end I want to follow up on.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Okay. Hi, my name's Sailor. What do I say?
Seventh grade.
I'm 7th grade at the middle school, and I don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Why did we do the drive?
We did this drive because I had gotten accepted into the National Junior Honor Society, and I had some community service hours to complete, so we thought this would be a good way to complete them and also help out the town and the kids in need.
How did you go about it? How did you tell people?
So we started by posting on Facebook and Tiverton Happenings and all of those pages, spreading the word out to family and friends and to the public. And I got a huge donation from a person with like 39 backpacks, which was a huge start. And it just kept adding up from there.
We used 525 as a drop off.
And we used 525 Nutrition on Main Road for people to donate when we went away. And we also accepted cash donations in about $500 that we spent all towards supplies to stuff every backpack and buy more backpacks because we were like overflowing our house with school supplies. I have a rough, I tried to keep track, but it didn't go perfectly of everything. But according to my list, I had 71 pencil cases, 60 crayons, 60 crayon boxes, 318 erasers, that's oddly specific, 110 glue sticks, 75 single subject notebooks, 74 rulers, 73 composition notebooks, 150 folders, 50 colored pencils, 21 pencil sharpeners. That's definitely all. 65 highlighters, 300 pens, about almost 1,300 pencils, 15 markers, 59 backpacks, plus a few more that I didn't end up adding. 70 binders, 68 dry erase markers, 11 11 Elmer's glue bottles, 28 scissors, 10 large hand sanitizers, 10 small hand sanitizers, 10 things of paper towels, 21 tissues, and 20 bottles of disinfectant wipes. We collected a lot of stuff.
And what did we do to deliver them?
To deliver them, we partnered with the Tiverton Police Department's drive, and we brought all the stuff in old vintage cars that my dad and his friend have, and we dropped it all off to the night they had out at Longplex, and we filled up a few boxes of their stuff, and that's about it. It all got donated. What?
How many hours did you put in?
I probably put in, I don't have my hours in front of me, but it was anywhere between like 6 to 10. I don't remember. That's a big difference, but yeah, that's about it.
Well, great job. Congratulations. And I'm sure we'll see you in the Senior Honor Society as well in a few short years. So thank you, Taylor.
Sailor, just congratulations, incredible amount of hard work. You collected hundreds of supplies to help dozens of your students. I'm holding up her certificate. That might be a little hard to see here, but we're going to make sure this gets physically in your hands. We're very, very proud of you. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Great job, Sailor.
Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sailor.
Okay. These meetings just keep on getting better and better. All right. So now we are up to item 7C, Middle School Handbook update. Mr. Ashley.
Yes, hi again. So we are coming back before the committee with some, I guess, kind of fine-tuning updates to the middle school handbook. I want to really give credit to Ms. Craven and her team, Mr. Campion, and the team that worked incredibly hard, really through all of last spring, to add in restorative practices into their behavioral matrix, put in language around how to support students through RTI. And the committee reviewed those pieces a few meetings ago, but wanted to come back and make some fine adjustments. And so we made those adjustments, including school committee members. We changed some language around the interscholastics versus extracurriculars. So if a student is struggling and is potentially ineligible because of academics, that would only apply for the interscholastic, meaning the cross-country soccer, as opposed to any other club or extracurricular activity. That student would still be eligible for that. There was also some fine-tuning, really fine-tuning language about the school resource officer's involvement during the diversion program, that school resource officer may be involved as opposed to an automatic involvement. And then the last major piece was a note there about the free and reduced lunch for the upcoming school year, and that we are definitely still accepting applications from families. If you were to require free and reduced lunch, even though lunch is going to be free, we would still encourage families to apply for that free and reduced lunch. And so I'm happy to take questions broadly or on those points, but would ask for school committee approval this evening.
I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, so I'm going to open up the floor for discussion. First, thanks, Mr. Ashley and Mrs. Craven previously. So, Mr. Dakotas?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Farnworth?
Mr. Ashley, I do have a couple of questions. First, with regard to lunch, I did see the changes that you incorporated. However, there was one line in there that I probably would have expected to have been struck, and that was, money will not be loaned to a student to buy lunch if everything is free. I don't see where there would be the necessity to loan anyone money. Also, as I just learned this evening during this meeting, breakfast, I think, is also expected to be free for this coming year. And
Correct.
there are prices for breakfast still listed in the handbook. So
That's
those
correct.
should be struck as well.
Although this option is only for 1 year.
We review this each year. And we had a number of things that were in there for 2020
School year.
that changed.
Yeah, they do the handbooks every year.
Okay.
I just don't want to confuse people. And then lastly, I thank you for your explanation on the athletics, the students who are failing a core academic class. And you did mention that it's specific to those sports that are governed by the Interscholastic League. Should that be spelled out in the handbook? As opposed to, let's say, club sports or other, I know you took the extracurricular wording out of it, but,
We can make that, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, just absolutely. Happy to clarify
That was a
that
minor,
about the
yeah,
scholastic.
that was a
versus
minor
extracurriculars.
one.
And about the previous comments you made about breakfast and the money for lunch, loaning.
Okay. And
If I could just interject for 1 second. So sometimes, when you make the modifications, Chris, keep in mind that there are sometimes students who, not everything's free, so snacks aren't free and water isn't free. So we do get quite a few students who are asking for those items. So you just want to make sure you clarify that piece when you make that adjustment.
thank you, Ms. Cravens, that's exactly what I was going to just mention.
Is there any way to just put an asterisk next to the things that, and just say that, this will not be applicable for the fiscal year or school year 2021? That way next year you just strike that instead of having to get rid of, I hate to get rid of all the pricing and the formatting and I don't know if there's a way to just,
Yeah, definitely. That's just an easy fix. That's what I had done last year, just making a notation saying this is not applicable for this year.
Right.
And, who knows, the prices for lunch may change next year as well, so thank you for that recommendation.
That's all I had.
Okay. Mrs. Palish?
I'll amend my motion to approve with suggested recommended changes.
Okay. Is there a second to the amendment?
A second.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions from Zoom or YouTube?
There are no questions at this time, Dr. Locken.
Okay. We should call it Hume and ZooTube. So I'm going to ask for, yep, Mr. Quirk, yep.
Can I talk about something previous, because I did it last time, you didn't see me.
A
Before I
previous
get-
agenda item, you mean?
It's an agenda item, but it was a previous agenda item.
That we had posted
Tonight.
for tonight?
Yes.
Yes, but let us take this vote first. and
Oh, I'm
then-
sorry,
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you're voting, that was your vote?
Yes, that was my vote.
Mrs. Ballard, Mrs. Barnwell,
Yes.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so motion passes 4-0. And Mr. Ashley, just sort of a note to thank you for all of your work on this and also for all your work and dedication over the last several years. So best wishes in your future endeavors. I'm sure we'll hear of you, if not from you. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a privilege and honor.
So, Mr. Quirk, can you just tell me what item you wanted to speak on?
The discussion on the food
On the food,
budget,
on the food budget, okay.
yeah.
Well, first I'm just going to ask any objections from any other members of the committee. So please come to the podium, state your
Okay.
name, and
Thank you.
say your piece. Sure.
This is from my girlfriend, because I don't wear anything that's not either when my wife was alive, she put on the bed, or now what my girlfriend purchases. I just wear what, whatever's given to
well,
me.
Smart guy.
Every week we learn a little bit more about you, Mr. Quirk.
Yes. Yes, so.
Have at it.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify something. And when I said food. You got to state your name and your address. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. We know it. Okay. John Quirk, 1974, which is actually the year I graduated from college. Crandall Road, Tiverton, Rhode Island. Did I understand it properly when, I'm sorry, when Diane asked about the violations for the kitchen? Did I understand that there have been violations?
That's
Tho-
correct.
Okay, and those violations have not been addressed?
Because we have not had the capital funding to replace the kitchen equipment, correct?
Okay, so I think that's a big problem. As you know, I'm a safety person, I'm a safety professional, I have designations in those areas. I think that's a serious problem. I won't go down the road where to get the money, because I'm already in the town, not well liked. But here's another situation that you're violating the law from the health department. You're exposing the children to possible health problems. And I work for an insurance company. You might not get insurance down the road. I think it's a serious problem. You need to find the money somewhere. Like I said, I know we can get some of it. But you need to address that problem. If I was a parent and I heard that, there were health violations that have not been addressed in the school, personally, I'd be quite upset. So thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Unless someone's got a question.
So I think I might be able to clarify this a little bit because I've been, not actually a question, but just sort of a response. The issue really is the age and of the dishwasher. So it's not an issue of unsafe food handling or something like that. And it has been in our capital budget for several cycles, and we haven't gotten approval from the voters ultimately for it. So
Who works in the kitchen? Is it our people?
it's primarily
Chartwell's,
Staples, yeah.
Chartwell's employees.
Okay.
So anyway, I think, if you'd like, I'm sure Dr. Sanquioni or Mr. Mendes could sort of give you a little bit more detail in it, but.
Well, standing water,
you're
you
aware.
did indicate one of the problems is that the standing water has to be squeegees all the time. I know you're a doctor. You know as a doctor that standing water in itself creates problems from a bacterial standpoint.
Yep.
So, fix the dishwasher. Get the money somewhere to fix and bring yourself up to code.
Okay.
That's the way I feel about it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we are up to item 9A, new policy 1187 requiring masks in school. This is a second reading. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the policy.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll open it for discussion or any other amendments. Mrs. Palish.
To Dr. Sanquioni's point, do we need the policy now that it's mandated?
I would say yes, because the executive order lasts until September 18th. It could expire, and we could still be, in fact, that's actually before the projected peak in the state of Rhode Island, which is probably not until the last week of September, early first
So
week of
when the
October.
executive order expires, could we come back and tweak it with some of those things that we had discussed earlier?
We can always do that with
Okay.
any policy.
Okay,
But I think it's important for us to adopt it tonight to get through
Okay.
the process.
okay.
Is that it? Sure you don't want the floor? Okay. Ms. Farnworth?
I do have a statement. I had hoped that we could start the school year with at least some kind of a modified masking plan. I think we had all hoped for that. But of course, with the rise in prevalence of the Delta variant, it's simply impossible right now. The governor's executive order setting a mask mandate does, in my opinion, make setting this policy almost a moot point, to Mrs. Polish's point. However, I do think it's important for us to approve the policy, which shows our commitment to the health and safety of our students and staff. We've come a long way since the beginning of the pandemic. Vaccines for adults and children 12 and over are widely available, and now the Pfizer vaccine is fully approved by the FDA. I'm hopeful that the vaccines for children 12 and under are available soon, and Dr. Larkin, you alluded to that perhaps being the case within the next few months. While I do appreciate the concerns that the parents who came to our meeting 2 weeks ago have over mental health and other issues associated with mask wearing, I believe that everyone's physical health must take precedence in this situation. I would like us, however, to be ready to gradually ease restrictions as soon as circumstances permit. I'll also ask that moving forward, Dr. Sanquioni provide us with updates at least monthly so that we can all understand as a community what the outlook is for easing of restrictions. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dakotas?
Yeah, so sort of the same thing as a statement. So at the last meeting, I made a comment urging the governor to hopefully make this a mandate so that all the school boards and committees in the state didn't have to sort of be the bad guys. And I'm happy that the governor did that. So from my perspective, I say kudos for making that decision. I also think that the parents that either sent emails or came to the meeting and spoke or put comments on ZoomTube, as Dr. Larkin calls it, I think in the end, no one wants to be here. I have children in the school system. I don't want them to be masked. I don't want to wear a mask right now. But unfortunately, I also believe that this is a safer thing to do till we get more guidance, till we can get our under 12s vaccinated, and hopefully we can revisit this. I just didn't think now was the right time. So I'm personally satisfied with where we're at, and I know this is a topic that, whether you're on the left side or the right side of it, there's no right answer, but I feel that my personal belief was that this is the way we should have done it, and I'm happy to start the school year with these masks. Thank you.
Okay. Anything on Zoom or YouTube, Mr. Carnevale?
There are no comments or questions at this time.
Okay. And again, I agree with everything that has been said to date. I think this is clearly the safest, most appropriate way to open school. I don't know that we're going to stay in this state. I hope we won't. But I think the best way to fail, if you will, the best way to close the schools is to go into this thinking everything is just fine and we're not going to be affected the way we see all kinds of school districts being affected in the South and elsewhere that have already opened and have, in some cases closed for a few weeks and maybe not going to reopen and have large numbers of students in quarantine. So, I think one thing remains true. We have been very successful as a district, as a team, as a community in combating this pandemic, not just in the schools, but in the community at large. And I think it's easy to lose sight of how successful we have been, but we always have to keep in mind that there are many, many ways we could be failing. So let's keep up the good work. So I'm going to ask for a vote. Mrs. Palish?
Dr. Larkin?
Yep.
Before you do that, sorry.
So we do have a couple comments that are just popping up now.
Okay.
If you don't mind. So the first one is from Catherine Hopkins, saying, thank you for recognizing that this time masking is important, especially for people with underlying conditions who are often marginalized or dismissed as a very small minority. We have a question in regards to the middle school for students changing classes. Will they be changing classes, or will they be the teachers rotating?
Dr. Stanchioni?
So this year, the middle school students will be changing classes, and our confidence to do that is based upon what happened at the high school last year when we changed classes, and we disinfected a room between every change. And we, as you've already heard me say, no student caught COVID in our schools. And after talking with our middle school teachers and Ms. Craven at the time, it was made in the best decision of our students. Being locked in that one classroom can get tedious, to allow them to switch classes, but we will disinfect every room at the change of classes, and we believe that will be a very safe environment.
Okay, thank you.
Another question in regards to masks for when gym is indoors. Will we be requiring masks for that?
We will. That's a requirement.
And then another comment to make sure that mask breaks were mentioned for last year and promised for last year, and many students did not receive them. So it's a comment in regards to making sure that that does happen.
Okay.
We will.
Okay.
And there's a question in regards to busing. Will there be safety measures as last year, spacing, pods, et cetera, in regards to busing?
Peter?
So there's no restriction on the number of students who can ride a bus. The restriction is only the capacity of the bus. However, seating, students will be given assigned seats both to and from school, and the buses will be disinfected after every run. Windows will be open, weather dependent.
Thank you.
And yes, and masks at all times.
And the busing mask is a federal mandate?
Correct.
Yes. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Is there any indication that that's going to change at all?
Have not heard of.
How are these other places where they're mask optional? Are they doing bus mask optional even though it's a federal regulation? They're masks on the bus and then they take them off. All right. All right. I'm going to ask for a vote. Mrs. Palish? Yes. Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The policy is adopted as written. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Stanchioni. So we are up to announcements, scheduled meetings, reports. Our next two regular meetings are September 14th and September 28th. I had sort of asked about having one of the school nurses and/or an elementary school teacher come maybe on the 14th to talk to us a little bit. Is there anything else anybody else wants to list or put on right now?
I would like a finance update on the fiscal '22 year-to-date, at least by the second meeting in September.
28.
I can certainly do that, but we will only have information through the end of August at
That's
that
fine.
point. Okay.
Anybody else, anything else? I just have, so the town council would like to meet with us or our representative, which I guess is me, on the 20th to discuss the capital again, so from the casino funds. So I think that's an open meeting, anyone's able to attend. If we have a quorum, we should post it. So if you are planning on attending, let me know and I'll post it, and it'll be a joint meeting. And Peter, maybe you and I can review the capital list.
Absolutely.
And maybe add a dishwasher, I don't know. We could discuss anything we are going to add on the 14th as well, if we're going to add things.
I'll fight for it.
Huh?
I'll fight for it.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion to move into executive session under Rhode Island General Law 4246 5A2, Council 94 and NEA negotiations.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Take that as unanimous. We are now in executive session. Should we go to the...
Yep.
Over there?
On a nice night.